Cool. Well, unfortunately, I can't see you guys, which is a bummer. So you'll just have to come off mute when you want to chat, or we can also just turn off the screen as soon as we get going. For everyone who is just joining, welcome. You are at the Breaking into Product Management office hours. The goal of this is just to make it as helpful for you as possible. So I'm happy to do whatever you want to do. If you want to ask questions, we can ask questions. If you want to have your resume reviewed, I'm happy to look at resumes or take home assignments or whatever it may be. We can talk through anything. The only thing I wanted to talk about before we quickly jump into the presentation itself, we are currently doing a boot camp about everything related to breaking into product management. Um, and we're doing a free giveaway to that boot camp. So if you're interested in doing it, which I would 10 out of 10 recommend, you should be interested in doing it, especially if it is uh, free, then you should enter this survey. So you can type in this link here, or you can scan the QRL or the QR code. Great. Okay, a little bit about me. So I am a product manager. I've worked at several companies doing product management, from really early stage startups to $100 billion enterprises. I've also interviewed with most of the major tech companies, including Google, Salesforce, Microsoft, Atlassian, Duolingo. And then I've helped my clients break into many of the same companies and more, such as Capital One, Datadogs, Meta, Google. I've been coaching for about 2.5 years now. I've helped dozens of people, and yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And then we're going to talk about Q&A, and then at the end we will give away I will announce who won the boot camp, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's being covered there. Here's just very quick overview. It's 8 sessions, everything from like getting the interview, take-home assignments, product design interviews, favorite product, behavioral questions, analytical interviews, execution, and then kind of like a catch-all, ask me anything. So that's kind of what's covered there. The big value add is that it's a cohort. So you'll be put in groups of people where you can do mock interviews, you can do resume reviews, and have a community of people to find networks. Um, we have about 100 people in the boot camp right now. Um, it usually costs about $1,200. We believe we're providing $3,200 in value between all the different things you're going to get of the instruction hours, the content library you get access to, um, the mock interviews. But we're doing a special discount tonight where it will be $799. There's also, I believe if that price is unaffordable, there will be a scholarship application that you can apply to as well. So if you have not entered to win, you can do so now. If not, let's just jump into the Q&A. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Uh, Great. Okay. Anyone have any questions or want to get started?
So my name is Elston. How's it going?
What's up, Elson?
I have a question. So like, say that I'll use myself, right? I graduated some time ago, like 2019, and then I went to
Okay.
like a tech boot camp during pandemic and learned how to code. And now I'm trying to make a pivot into product management um, through an APM program. How how would you best, I guess, like either craft a resume or if you don't have product experience, like what's the best way to position yourself, being that I guess that first part of the application process is going to just be virtual, like sending like your resume and stuff through.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll take it like a step back, and then we can talk about the specific question. So it sounds like the goal is you want to break into product, period.
Correct.
There's a few different ways that that can be done. So one is through an APM program, which are like these entry level product management jobs. The other possibility would be transitioning into product. Um, and I think both are very viable options, and we can kind of talk about both. And then I would say, even within APM programs, there's two types of companies. One are like I'll call them like the shiny brand name companies, that like the Uber,
Right.
the LinkedIn, the
Google.
Salesforce, the
Mhm.
Google. And then there are, I'll call them more mid-market companies, that they're great companies and they're looking for entry-level product managers. So the shiny companies are really competitive, and there's a lot of things that you can do. And I'm not saying that you should write them off. I'm saying like it's like 1 to 3 in 1,000 people who apply will get an offer.
Right.
And so you shoot your shot, but you also hedge your bets by looking at the other options.
For sure.
So, I think the mid-market companies are really interesting because once you have any product management experience at all, your ability to pivot into bigger and better companies is so much higher. I have a friend who didn't really get any great offers, and then he went and worked for like a no-name company, was there for a year, and now he's pivoted to Amazon and like has a great job and is making a lot of money. And so, um, for those companies, the more mid-market, relationships matter a ton. When I was first trying to break into product, the way I thought about it is I looked at companies that had just raised money, um, and then I went and I tried to schedule a call with every PM at that company I could. I ended up they only had like 5 PMs, and I met with 3 of them, and basically like begged slash convinced them to like take a shot on me, and then they brought me on for an internship, and it worked out really well. Um, my wife, it's actually a very similar story of she's really interested in ed tech. There's a company, they called it a, product owner, but it was essentially a product manager. She joined and then, about 6 months later was promoted to product manager, and so that also worked
Nice.
really well for her. Um, did that answer your question, or do you wanna dive deeper into, like, how to maximize your chances to get an interview?
That kind of answers my question. I think I'm a little interested in if you could give some guidance to. I think I'm also very interested in that like conversation. How do you get people to take a chance on you? Like, how do you convince someone to say, "Hey, I have these skills and I'm gonna have the experience, but I'm like really dedicated and I think that this, what's your approach to that conversation?"
Yeah, a few thoughts. So, the first one is volume. So,
Right.
let's say 1 in 100 people is gonna take a chance. I just gotta go talk to 100 people so that one of
Right.
them does. The second thing is I have found that passion matters a lot. I had this client I worked with last year. She the plan was always medical school, and then she decided last minute after she had graduated, "I don't wanna be a doctor. What else is available to me?" Her experience was she'd been an ACT tutor, she ran a little Etsy shop, and then she had worked for different beauty pageants and really wanted to break into product. And so the first thing we did was like, let's frame these things as much as possible. And then we started making a list of what companies did she want to work at. And the thing about her is she knew so much about the healthcare industry. And so she reached out to a lot of these health tech companies and had a lot to say. Like she understood healthcare billing and research really, really deeply. And so people were more willing to take a chance on her because she had this burning passion for healthcare. Similarly, my wife cares a lot about ed tech. And so when she's talking to people, they could feel her passion. Like this is an industry or a vertical you're deeply passionate about, so I'm going to overlook that you don't have a lot of experience, and I'm gonna believe that you can get that experience to land the offer.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any like follow-up questions or questions from anyone else?
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
I have a question about, so I guess a bit of context first. I'm currently doing a software engineering internship.
Great.
Um, I would love to pivot to product for new grad. And I noticed that just looking at the list of APMs at some of the big name companies, I noticed that a lot of them are returning interns, or a lot of them already had previous PM internships. So, what are some tips to stand out in the resume or in the application process to be able to, get through the resume screening
Yep.
step?
Yeah, really good questions. The resume screen is for sure the hardest part of this because it's the part you have the least control over. In the interview, you get to defend yourself and you get to say what you believe. In the resume, you submit like a one sheet piece of paper and you can't defend yourself. And if they have any questions, you can't answer them. Um, so there's a few things that you can do. The first is um, connections at a company matter a lot. Here's just a quick story about that. I have a friend who really wanted to work at Salesforce, and he got connected to a former APM there. My caveat is he talked to him like months before applying. This was probably April or May, not when the applications had opened, and became really good friends with this APM. And the APM was convinced that Salesforce needed to hire this person. So much so that they emailed both the hiring manager and the recruiter in charge of Salesforce APM recruiting. And he wrote like it was like a 5 paragraph essay of why they needed to hire this person. And if they pass on him, that they made the biggest mistake ever. And then, as you can imagine, he got the interview and then he ended up getting the offer. And so, having someone that is willing to advocate for you makes a world of difference. Obviously, that's so much easier said than done. What worked out really well for my friend is that he was living in San Francisco and like went on a 2 hour walk with this person one Saturday and they just talked like for 2 hours and became good friends. So like people in the company who are willing to advocate for you. Second, there are things you can do on your own to boost your resume. I've been shocked at how many people that land great APM roles have side projects that they can speak to. Um, Going to the client I talked about earlier, who she didn't really have any experience, but she ran this Etsy shop, and that Etsy shop did pretty well. She sold like not a ton, but let's say like 20 to $30,000 in revenue. And she talked about how she was able to identify a hole in the market and create a product that fit it and was able to spin that experience in a really good product lens. And so even though she had zero relevant PM experience, being able to talk about that matters a lot. So I found that in the recruiting screen, they look really heavily for things like founder or like I mean, I guess it's just the word founder. Like founder experience is analogous to PM experience in a lot of ways. Okay, it looks like there are a few hands raised. Is it Ananya?
Yes, that's right.
Great. What's up?
So I actually wanted to ask, like, so you mentioned that this person had been talking to the Salesforce APM since a long time, but now since there is not a lot of time left for a lot of applications, APM applications, since some of them open in August. So what would you suggest that we do right now?
Yeah, so right now it's not too late. It is too late. And again, you should always shoot your shot and reach out, but it gets so much harder once the application opens. Um, like just to give you some visuals, when I was at Atlassian, it was like I would get one person who reached out every other week, and then the role opened, and I had like 20 people reach out that day. And so I was usually pretty good about I'm going to respond to the one person every 2 weeks who reaches out. But when it opened, I responded to zero of those 20 people. Like I don't have time to make 20, 30-minute phone calls. Or of those 20 people to actually like do effort to advocate for them and connect them to recruiters. And so if you're doing it before the application has started, you are in the right time frame.
That's right. So actually, this did start like last week. I reached out to probably 30 people, 30 APMs from the same company that I'm aiming for. But so far, none of them have responded. So what would you
Yeah.
suggest I do?
uh, keep reaching out to people. It only
So
takes
would
one.
it be helpful to just reaching out to like APMs or PMs, or like should I reach out to other people as well?
I would do
And
other people.
have
It's like a good, better, best thing. Like in this case, the best is when you get someone who's in the APM program and is willing to advocate for you. But a referral in any form is good. And so I wouldn't say like I'm not going to get a referral because it's not a PM. It's like get whoever you can to refer you. And the closer they are to the decision-making process, the better.
That's great. Thank you so much. Can I ask one follow-up question?
Yeah, and then we'll move to manage.
Okay. So for preparing for interviews, how do you suggest like we do how many mocks maybe before an interview?
Yeah. Well, you should do the boot camp because the boot camp is like 90%, 80% all about interviews, and it'll be great.
All right,
In
thank
terms of
you.
how much time, uh, this is a dumb answer, but it's until you can't get it wrong. Uh, Not like I think some people say, "As soon as I get it right once, I'm good." That is the wrong mindset. It's until any question, any curveball that someone throws at you, you've now built the muscle memory to, like, fall back to a framework, break down the problem, be able to solve it, and get, like, some form of a coherent answer out. And so for some people, like, if you're really charismatic and really good at thinking in the spot, that's gonna be, like, 5 interviews and you're fine. I have a brother like that. He got this, like, awesome offer at Bain, and he did, like, 3 cases, and good for him. I was not that way. I probably did, like, 200 mock interviews, and I was still, like, not the best at them. But that's just, like, what it took for me, and so you know yourself better and practice with other people so you can get their feedback as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So I guess a little background. My name's Manish. I just graduated from UVA. I studied business,
Congrats.
so definitely like the most non-traditional thing, at least like a lot of, not technical in the CS aspect of it. But I have experience in like startups and like private equity and venture capital. And I'm working at a tech company, like a mid-sized business intelligence company on their like operations side of it. Um, and like, do you think, have you worked with clients that have like applied APM roles like after a year out, or would you suggest that they apply to APM roles? And like, what can I do, I guess, to apply to APM roles, or should I even apply to APM roles? Just
Yeah,
curious.
it's a good question. So, it depends a lot on the company. So Shopify loves people exactly in your situation. Like they call it, I think the APM is different. It's like apprentice product manager or something, but they're like really big on we want you to start as soon as you can, and it's okay that you don't have that you're not a student. Google really wants people who are students right now, and they'll kind of throw out your application if you are not a student. And so you need to learn like which companies are okay with um, you being graduated or not. At Atlassian, one of the APMs my year had a year of work experience and then decided to switch into product and gotten hired. And so, yeah, definitely doable. In terms of if it's the right move or not, it depends a lot uh, on a few things like how badly do you want to break into product, um, and are you okay? Frankly, like an APM role is usually considered an entry level role. And so for some people, that's okay. They're okay taking a step back in their career and kind of losing a year's worth of career development. And for other people, they're not. So they're going to go work for another year or so and then just transition into a product management role and maintain somewhat of the seniority. So that's a personal decision that needs to be made. In terms of making the transition and what makes the most sense there, the best thing that I have heard and generally what I've seen is you want to join a company that is hiring a ton of people. usually meaning they're growing really quickly. I met this lady, she was a dental hygienist, and then she started working for this company called Weave that does software for dental offices. And at first she was doing like customer support, and then she learned a lot about what the customers were struggling with and working with PMs to solve those issues. And then she said, "You know what? I just want to be a PM." The company was exploding. And she met a lot of the PMs on the team, and they had no problem hiring her to be a PM. So it's like a very untraditional path into product, dental hygienist to customer support to product. Um, but the company was growing so fast that it didn't matter that they could do it. And then I met other people who they have like a near perfect experience for product, but they get in this company that's like not growing and they're not hiring PMs. And then like it takes years before they're able to make the jump.
Awesome, thank you. And then a quick follow up, I guess like other than working full time at the company, would you like recommend like doing side projects or anything to kind of like keep that PM experience going outside of the work itself?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're really serious about breaking into product, you should absolutely do some flavor of a side project. That doesn't need to be software. It's great if it is software, but like do side projects. It's the best thing to put on your resume. It's the best thing to talk about in interviews. Like the only thing that is better than a side project is being a PM and having that on your resume. And sometimes that's actually worse depending on how well your side project goes or how bad the PM experience is.
Okay, and then sorry, last quick follow up. So when you say side project, would that be like just like co-founding some kind of club or like working at like a nonprofit or wherever it may be, like any kind of that, or should it be more technical related to the product role?
Yeah, no, I've seen all of them. Like we talked about the Etsy shop already.
Yeah.
My boss, when he broke into product, it's because he started making baseballs and he would cut the inside out and then he'd put it with cotton. And so like you would hit it and it wouldn't break windows because the middle of it was soft. It was like the most random thing. I've seen people start nonprofits. I've seen people do like real side tech side projects. Like really anything goes. I would say Uber, DoorDash are obviously not those are side gigs, not side projects.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, Diba.
Hey, Mike, are you guys able to hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. First off, thank you so much for doing this. My name is Dibba. Just a quick background about me. So I'm actually a software engineer. I really want to break into the product role. So just a couple of questions. So you mentioned when people were reaching out to you on LinkedIn, how did those conversations go? Like, how would you suggest for someone like us who are trying to break into the APM roles? Like, how would we reach out to someone that's already in that kind of role?
Yeah. It's a good question. Um, I think there are kind of best practices that you need to be aware of. Like keep it
Mhm,
under 30 minutes, be
mhm,
really respectful of their time. Um, don't be like too pushy. Like there's like common courtesy principles I get,
right.
which obviously like you probably know that, but it's worth mentioning because so many people do crazy things in these calls.
Yeah.
Um, and then really any way to connect with the individual.
Mhm,
And it's so hard to give a formula for what that would look like because I've
mhm,
seen it done so many ways. Sometimes it's just like talk about the person you're talking to themselves and like ask about their life and ask insightful questions. And then
mhm,
um, you can connect with them by asking good questions. Maybe you have some flavor of a shared experience
mhm.
that you can talk about. Generally, the principle I've found to be most helpful is, people love talking about themselves,
Yep.
and the more you can give them opportunities to talk about themselves and kinda flatter them, usually the
Mhm.
better the conversation goes.
Got it.
Um, and so I've found that's helpful, but I don't really know. Does that if anyone has a great answer, like, please drop it in the chat.
Yeah, and some other questions that I had. So you mentioned a lot about projects. So I know one of those examples were the Etsy store. The other one was your boss creating that cool baseball thing. I guess my question is, how are so as a software engineer, right? The way we showcase our projects are through like, creating websites or like creating iOS apps or Android apps, right? and we showcase it on a platform called GitHub. So is there like for project managers, is that does something like that exist? Like I guess I'm a little confused on when you say projects.
Yeah. So this is where like the biggest distinction between a software engineer and a PM
Mhm,
happen. In a lot of ways, or I guess in my opinion, and for what I like, the PM's job is a lot more fun. Of like, I get to brainstorm and I get to think of all these things. The bad side, the con side of that is
mhm,
I am held responsible
mhm,
often for specific metrics. Like
mm,
when I was at Atlassian, I worked on the sign up flow and
mhm,
we had certain goals on increasing the number of new signups and like how many of those signups are actively using the product 2 weeks later. And
mhm.
I need to move that metric. And if that metric doesn't move, I get fired. And
Oh
so that's the
wow.
difference between a PM and a software engineer. Like software engineer is more responsible for the building of it and like the
Uh-huh.
outcome of what gets built. That's the
Mhm,
PM's job. Uh,
mm.
so
So
the pro of that
just
is,
sorry,
oh,
just a real quick follow up. So when you say if you don't meet your metrics like that, are they that strict of like firing you to the extent of like, okay, you didn't meet this metrics, even if you're off by like 5%?
yeah, well, it obviously depends on the company and
Hmm.
whatever the growth targets are.
Gotcha.
Um, and really, if your boss agreed with what you did, like, let's say
Oh.
I advocate for certain features to be built and I'm really opinionated about it, and
Hmm.
then they get built and they're absolute misses. Like, they do not do anything. In fact, maybe they hurt the product. In
Hmm.
that case, I'd probably be fired. If
Damn.
I
Okay.
go show my roadmap and everyone loves it and they think it's a good idea and it
Hmm.
doesn't work out, usually people are more gracious with that.
Mm, I see.
Um, and so, yeah, it's all about the narrative and the story you tell. Usually they're not that cutthroat unless
Hmm.
it's like a hyper competitive growth company or something. Like maybe
Got it.
NVIDIA is that because like they just have that ability to fire people and hire because
Right.
everyone wants to work at NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, the point I was trying to make with you being attached to a metric is the thing they're looking for is on your resume, you should show like founder of X, and then they're looking for the impact of it. Like in this,
Mm,
to my the Etsy shop, it's you don't need to see the Etsy shop. I just need to see started an Etsy shop and sold $30,000 of merchandise. And they care about that 30,000. Like I was able to do something. And so I've emphasized it doesn't need to be software, but
mhm.
an impact matters a lot. And that's the big distinguishing factor is like, I'm going to do whatever I can that I think has the highest likelihood of working in some form.
Gotcha. No, thank you so much for that insight. And just last question. So I know some of these APM programs do have technical sections, and I've always gotten confused with that. So do you know what that means? Like, what is a technical section for a product manager? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good question. I get confused by it too. So here's what I do know. Um, It used to be that technical, like a coding interview was really common for PM interviews. So,
Hmm.
like, rewind the clock 10 years, you would likely get a coding interview. That has really fallen out of favor in the past 5 years,
Hmm.
maybe even the past 3 years. So if you talk to an APM, in fact, the coach we have who's doing this section on technical interviews at the PM boot camp, she
Hmm.
had to do a coding interview for LinkedIn.
Oh
Today, they
wow.
don't do one. I never had a coding interview in all of my APM recruiting. I did have technical interviews, and what they did in those interviews was, 1, they would give me data, and they would ask me to come to a decision because of that data.
Hmm.
For example, they showed me a feature, and then they showed me the result of what that feature did, and then they asked me, "Should we ship this feature or not?" And I
Hmm.
had to be able to go through the data, understand the trade-offs, and then make a decision on if it is a good decision or not. They intentionally structured the data where it's
Hmm.
like a nuanced answer, like, it could be or it could not be, and you don't really know, so you have to make an argument either way.
Oh.
I've also found that they do a lot of it's almost like behavioral questions or maybe slight case questions related to technical. Like, if you were a PM at Instagram, what would the North Star metric be?
Hmm.
Or maybe they'd even do it with a specific feature. You're the PM over Instagram stories. what metrics do you look at every day? And so that's much more of like the technical part. I also got asked a lot of behavioral questions, like tell me about a time you used data to make a decision.
Mhm.
Um, like what data do you use in your job every day? Like kind of those types of questions.
Mhm.
Um, and then also things like what do you do to stay on top of technical trends?
Mhm.
But never was asked to code.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. It looks like two people are raising their hands. We've got I don't know Matthew and Delvin.
Yeah, hi. Really quick question. Right now I'm in kind of the weeds interviewing. And I was curious, what would you say the most optimal split between product sense, technical, and behavior questions would be?
Yep.
Yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah. So um, you're going to get asked the most behavioral questions, and you're also going to get asked behavioral questions first. So usually it's like a recruiter screen, then a take home challenge, and then a case. And I have found some of my clients make the mistake of getting really good at casing and they're not that good at behavioral questions. And they never are able to get to the case round because they can never make it past the recruiter screen. So the way I thought about preparing is I'm going to get really good at the recruiter screen first, then really good at the product case. And then I'm going to worry about everything else later because those are usually the first interviews and I'm gonna make sure that I can at least get past those. Um, I would also say that, like, yeah, the majority of your questions are gonna be behavioral, so make sure you can nail those. Product case, next most common. Um, Analytical or execution or technical, like those interviews are actually kind of rare, and they're usually in like a final round or a super day at the end of the interview process. And so I wouldn't spend too much time on those. I'd probably spend 80% of my time on behavioral and then traditional product case. What I mean by product case is like, what's your favorite product and why? Or how would you improve X product? Those types of questions.
All right, thank you so much. Yep. So, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Delvin, did you have a question? We can't hear you if you're talking.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can.
Yeah, how's it going, Mike? My name is Delvin, um, and I currently work for Ripple Match.
Yep.
I just have some questions regarding you personally about how many hours you spend in meetings per day as a PM. I know this can like vary, but also what do you spend doing the rest of your time as a PM and how that gets kind of carved out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not a great example of this because really, like, I mean, Leland is a startup. I work at Leland. Half my job is very like chief of staff, everything random projects. And so I do a lot of not product work in my job. Um, Usually a PM at a bigger company is just a PM. And a lot of times they'll be working with multiple engineering teams. In terms of how many meetings I have a day, a lot of meetings. When I was at Atlassian, I did the math of how many meetings my all the PMs on my team averaged a day, and it was like 5.5 hours a day of meetings. And when you're working 8 hours a day, that is like the vast majority of your day. Part of the reason for that is Atlassian is a huge company. They're also a remote first company. And so it just required a lot of meetings to coordinate with everything and get things done. Also, your job as a PM is to protect the engineers in a lot of ways from dumb meetings. And so you take the dumb meetings on their behalf. I used to joke that I am like the company or like the team mascot. And so if someone needs to go talk about what my team is doing, they're not sending any of the engineers, they're not sending any of the designers or data scientists. They're sending the PM. And like they're going to go and they'll be the mascot of the team. Um, when you're not in meetings, there's a few things that you could be doing. One could be writing product specs. You want to build a feature, go describe what feature you want to build. 2, and sometimes this is considered meeting, sometimes not, but you should be spending a lot of time with customers, uh, and understanding their needs. And then, honestly, that's basically it. Talking to customers, writing product specs, and then coordinating with people and making sure that things are being done right.
Would you say in a lot of these bigger companies, there's sometimes a lot of red tape or a lot of, repetition? By the end of the day, it's kind of like the PM's job to narrow down what's most important and condense it to the most efficient form to ensure that, you know, you're able to follow the timeline and make sure everything is up to speed.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's so much coordinating, like, I said I worked on the sign-up flow at Atlassian. That's true. There was also 2 other teams also working, on the sign-up flow. Oh, I am 7 minutes over. Okay. I'm gonna wrap up in, like, 2 or 3 minutes. Let me quickly drop who won the PM boot camp, and then I will be right back. Okay. Oh, it was Matthew who just asked the last question. Matt, you won the PM boot camp. And so Nick from our team should be messaging you, and he'll make sure that you get added to the boot camp. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Okay. Anyway, I'll quickly wrap up what I was saying, and then I gotta go. There's 2 other teams who also worked on the sign-up flow. One of them was specifically for paid marketing, and then one of them was for, like, a different type of sign-ups where it's, like, someone's already part of a company and the company's paying for the product, but they're gonna sign up. Anyway, there's 3 teams working on literally 4 pages in the product, like, entering your name, confirming your email, creating your account, and that was it. It was, like, I guess 3 pages. 3 teams working on it. It was crazy. So there was so much coordinating, making sure everyone was on the same page, things are being done right. And so it's really hard. Like that is the reason I did not go back to big tech, because I felt really frustrated with how slowly things moved. Um, the good side of it is we shipped 1 feature, and that feature led to, like, 30,000 more people a year signing up. And if you say, well, the average user pays $10 a month, like, we drove millions of dollars in value because of 1 feature that we shipped. And so that's the other side, like, you do small things, but huge impact in what you do.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think, Kat
Oh,
had her
this one.
if not, maybe let's just do 1 question and then wrap up.
um, is this sorry if no one else is going, but is it like a good career for someone who's a career changer? Because I studied liberal arts degree in college, and I thought I was gonna be like a pre-law student, but now I kind of changed my mind to do something else. But how long does it take to like get into product management usually? Like how long do you think it was a good idea for someone who doesn't have experience in internships?
Yeah, it's so subjective. It's hard to give like an easy answer for that. Um, some people, like I talked about one client who worked really hard and she was able to make the jump really quickly. I've had other people with really good experience, but they're just not that dedicated to putting in the time and effort to make it happen, and it takes forever, or they're not able to do it. Um, and so really it comes down to how much effort are you willing to put in to beef up your resume. If you're gonna like start side projects right now and make it happen, you could do it in a few months, or even a few weeks, depending on how things go, or it could not happen at all.
Okay. But how do you know if like the career is if it's like the correct career for you?
Yeah, you should read about what a product manager does. There's a really good book called Inspired, that it's by oh, I can't remember his name. Uh, but anyway, you should read that. You should also meet with several PMs. Like you can reach out to them on LinkedIn and ask them to talk about their job and what they do and see if it's something you're interested in.
Okay.
Okay, I just dropped the link to I guess that's the PM boot camp. That's the giveaway. Well, if you have not signed up for the PM Bootcamp yet and you're interested, let me know. We do have a few scholarships, and so if the price is too high, but you're interested in attending, you should apply for those scholarships. Anyway, great chatting with all of you. I apologize if I wasn't able to answer some of your questions. Feel free to reach out to me or any of the other coaches on Leland. You can schedule a free 15-minute intro call and chat with them, or you can book some coaching.
Oh, what's your LinkedIn?
Yeah, my
Can I-
name's Mike Mella, and so you can just search me there. Great. Okay. See you, everyone.
What's-
Last thing. At the end of this, you can leave me a review. I would appreciate if you left me a good review. It does help with my profile. So, all right. Thank you. See you, everyone.